I gave everything away. Every penny I had saved across 40 years of hard, quiet, unglamorous work. I gave it away with a smile on my face and absolute certainty in my heart. And I am going to tell you exactly what that certainty cost me, because nobody warned me. Not one person sat me down and told me what I was really doing. So I am going to be that person for you today, even though it is not an easy story to tell, and even though telling it means admitting something that still stings when I turn it over in my mind. My name is Dolores. I grew up in a small house where money was never discussed casually. It was not a subject for the dinner table or light conversation. But it was always present, in the way my mother counted carefully before shopping, in the way my father repaired things rather than replaced them, in the way both of them operated with a quiet understanding that what you have, you protect, because nobody is coming to replace what you lose. That lesson went into me like thread into a needle. It became part of how I moved through the world. I came to this city at 19 with 2 bags and a willingness to work that I wore like armor. I worked in a factory first, then for more than 2 decades in a school, cleaning, maintaining, doing the invisible work that keeps a building alive. Not glamorous work. Not the kind of work you describe at parties. But honest work, and I did it with my whole self every single day. My husband Raphael was the same. Quiet, steady, a man who believed completely that you showed love through action and not through words. We did not talk about money very often. We simply agreed, without ever quite saying it aloud, that we would spend carefully and save what remained, week after week, year after year, decade after decade. And we did. When Raphael died, suddenly, completely without warning, on an ordinary Tuesday morning in the middle of breakfast after 41 years of marriage, I was devastated in a way I cannot properly describe. Grief is not big and dramatic the way films suggest. It is quiet and pervasive, like cold getting into a house through gaps you cannot find. But when the worst of it lifted, I discovered something I had not quite allowed myself to fully appreciate before. I was financially independent. I had the flat, paid in full. I had savings that were modest but real. I had my pension. I was not wealthy, but I was free. I could look at my own life and make choices without needing permission or assistance from anyone. For a woman of my generation, that was not a small thing. I had watched too many friends become invisible after their husbands died, dependent on children or charity, unable to choose even the simplest things for themselves. I was not going to be that. And then, one quiet afternoon about 2 years after Raphael passed, I was watching the television and a program came on about inheritance. About the taxes children pay when parents die. About the paperwork, the waiting, the legal complications, the way money can sit locked up for months in administrative processes while families try to grieve and settle estates at the same time. And something shifted in my thinking. A thought arrived that felt, at the time, like pure wisdom. Why wait? Why hold on to all of this until I am gone, when my children need it now, when I could actually see them benefit, when I could share in the happiness rather than just imagining it from somewhere I cannot reach? I have thought about that moment many times since. I have turned it over carefully the way you turn a stone over to look at what lives underneath. And what I see now, that I could not see then, is that the thought felt like generosity but it was dressed up fear. I was afraid. Afraid of becoming irrelevant. Afraid that my children would love me less when I had nothing material to offer them. Afraid of becoming the mother who only takes rather than the mother who gives. Afraid of being needed in a way that felt like burden rather than a way that felt like love. I did not recognize any of that at the time. The thought felt clean and bright and good. And so I acted on it with the kind of confidence that, looking back, was itself a warning sign I completely ignored. I called my 3 children together. We had a Sunday lunch, the whole family around the table, the way we used to when they were young. Afterwards, with coffee still in our hands, I told them what I had decided. I was going to divide my savings equally between them and put the flat in my eldest daughter Elena's name, since she lived closest and it made practical sense. There was silence when I finished speaking. Then Elena cried and said it was too much. My son David said I should think about it more carefully. My youngest, Tomas, said nothing for a while, and then asked if I was sure. I told them I was absolutely certain. And they accepted, because when a mother speaks with that kind of conviction, disagreeing feels like a kind of disrespect. I signed the papers. I divided the savings into 3 equal parts. I transferred the flat. I kept my pension and what the state had decided 40 years of unbroken work was worth, which looks like enough until it is the only thing you have, and then you understand very quickly how small it truly is. For months, I felt wonderful. I felt like the mother who had done the wise thing, the loving thing, the thing that solved problems before they became crises. I saw Elena looking less tense, the weight of her mortgage slightly eased. I saw David animated and hopeful about the small business he was finally able to start. I saw Tomas with a kind of settled calm he had not had before. And I told myself, quietly, privately, you did the right thing, Dolores. You did it well. Then my knee gave out. I had been managing the pain for years with medication and determination and the simple refusal to make a fuss about something that had not yet stopped me from living. But there comes a point where managing becomes impossible and the doctor looks at you across the desk and tells you that surgery is no longer optional, that the damage has progressed too far, that if you want to continue walking with any real independence you have to act now. The surgery itself was covered. But the recovery was not fully covered. The rehabilitation. The equipment you need when you live alone and your body is not yet your own again. The small daily costs that accumulate invisibly until they are no longer small. I called Elena. She came. She was present for the operation and helped me in the first difficult days at home, and I am not taking that away from her. But when I raised the financial part, she told me gently that this was not a good moment. A renovation. Things were tight. Perhaps in a few months. I called David. The business was harder than expected. The early months had been very difficult. He was sorry. Tomas sent what he could, which was not much but was given with real feeling, and he visited several times during the recovery. I thanked him each time with genuine warmth. And while I thanked him, something inside me twisted quietly, because the money he was handing me had been mine. All of it had been mine, less than a year before. That was the moment the ground shifted permanently under my feet. Not the physical pain, which was real but temporary. It was the other feeling, the new feeling of having to ask, of picking up the telephone knowing you need something and having to wait and see what comes back, of measuring your own need against someone else's capacity, of feeling like a problem that the people who love you are trying to solve within whatever space their own lives allow. I had never been on that side of things before. My whole adult life I had been the one who solved problems. Moving to the other side of that line happens without ceremony or announcement, and you only realize you have crossed it when you look back and cannot see the way home. What happened with the flat came later and was more complicated still. Elena's marriage ran into serious difficulties. The details are hers and I will not go into them here. But the legal situation around the property became entangled in ways that a solicitor explained to me using words I understood individually but could not quite make sense of together. The conclusion was clear enough though. I had no rights over it. What I had signed, I had signed. The flat that had been mine, that Raphael and I had paid for together over many years, was no longer mine in any sense that the law recognized. Elena suffered through all of this. That is also true and it also matters. She did not create the situation deliberately. Life had simply arrived with its usual indifference to the careful plans of well-meaning people. But the outcome for me was the same regardless of whose fault it was or whether anyone was at fault at all. I had my pension and very little else. It was Tomas who came one Saturday morning and said, gently, carefully, choosing every word like a man walking across uncertain ground, that he had been looking into options. That there was a residential home nearby with a good reputation. That with my income one would likely qualify for a place. That he had visited and it seemed decent. That he was not at ease with how things were. He said all of this looking at me in a way I recognized because I have known his face since the first second it existed. He was telling me he was sorry. That if there had been another way, he would have found it. My children love me. I will not have that questioned. They love me completely and I love them with an intensity that has not changed since the day each of them was born. But here is what a woman named Remedios told me one afternoon, a 92-year-old resident here with a sharp tongue and a very uncomfortable habit of being right. She said that I had loved my children too much to have taught them properly. That by always being the one who had everything under control, by never allowing them to see that their mother had real needs and real fears and real limitations, I had raised adults who simply did not know how to care for a mother. Not because they were careless. Because I had never given them any reason to practice. I sat with that for a long time. I am still sitting with it. We taught ourselves, my generation of women, that the highest form of love was emptying yourself completely for your children. That keeping anything back for yourself had a faint smell of selfishness to it. That a good mother was a bottomless well, and the proof of her love was in how little she kept for herself. What nobody told us was that we were also teaching our children, without words, through the pure logic of our actions, that we were worth less than they were. That our needs could come last. That our independence was a luxury rather than a necessity. So I gave away everything I had from love, yes, but also from fear. Fear of becoming unnecessary. And I got the exact opposite of what I was looking for. I lost the only independence that truly matters, which is not the independence of doing things alone, but the independence of being able to choose. To say no. To say yes freely, from a place of genuine abundance rather than from the edge of anxiety. Let me say plainly what no one said to me. Growing old costs money. More than you can imagine from a comfortable distance. Operations, medications that insurance does not fully cover, rehabilitation, the practical costs of daily life when your body begins to need help with things it once did easily and automatically. All of that has a price. And if you cannot pay that price yourself, then you pay it in dignity instead, which is a currency you cannot earn back once you have spent it. If you have savings, keep them. Not because you do not love your children, because you do. Not because you will never help them, because you will and you should. Keep them because a mother with her own resources is a mother who can make real choices. Who helps from a place of security and not from a place of depletion. Who can ask for what she needs without the asking costing her something fundamental about how she sees herself each morning. And if someone you love, a mother, a grandmother, an aunt, a friend of many years, begins talking about giving everything away, about simplifying, about not leaving the children with the burden of it all, do not simply agree with her. Sit with her first. Ask what she has planned for the years ahead. Ask whether she has thought about what her own care might cost. Ask, gently and honestly, whether she is certain this is wisdom and not something else wearing wisdom's clothing. You will not be taking anything from her by asking. You will be protecting her from the particular cruelty of arriving at need without resources, which is one of the loneliest places a person can find themselves. I have a chair in this room. It is the only thing I brought from the flat that was mine for 30 years. That chair and a box of photographs and a few objects that would mean nothing to anyone else and mean everything to me. This morning I sat in it and watched the pine tree in the garden moving in the wind. Slow and complete, as though the entire tree was breathing. And I thought about Raphael, and about my children, and about the strange difficulty of loving people well when you do not yet understand what loving well actually requires. I learned it late. But I did learn it. And if one person listening to this keeps what is theirs because of what I have said today, then it was worth sitting in this chair and saying it out loud. That is all. That is everything.